Bada bing, bada boom. Social Inform Media.
This story comes to us from WCPO.com. Going to Ohio. You're going to love what Bethel, Ohio hired as a police chief. Bethel Police Chief Chad Essert got his job there, even though he was fired or resigned under threat of termination from 3 of his 6 previous jobs in law enforcement, and that's according to his personnel records. Now, the WCPO 9I team reviewed Essert's personnel records and showed he was cited for alleged misconduct as a police officer, including a sexual harassment complaint filed against him by a female officer, intimidation of witnesses, untruthfulness, and disobeying orders, according to those personnel records. So Bethel says, hey, that's the kind of guy we want for police chief. Intimidating witnesses and all that. The I team obtained most of Essert's personnel records within a few weeks from his former employers and his current employer. And those documents reveal how he eventually became a small-town police chief for 2 departments, Fayetteville and Bethel, despite being told earlier that he had failed to meet basic police department standards with other law enforcement agencies. So this guy, what was he, looking for a job? And Bethel said, we'll take you. Retired Woodlawn Police Chief Jeff Witt, who was a former Ohio Peace Officer Academy instructor who had a 35-year law enforcement career, reviewed Essert's personnel records and said a lot of this would have been relatively easy to find in a thorough background check. I'd be very curious to see what was involved in the background investigation before he was hired for his current job as chief in Bethel. Clearly, a lot of the things that you sent me from the background that you did would have been red flags, whether hiring a chief or just an entry-level police officer. So he's saying even hiring an entry-level cadet, you'd be like, ooh, red flag. But they hire the guy as police chief. Bethel Mayor Jay Noble and Chief Essert, hired as police chiefs as Bethel's police chief in October of 2021, declined to respond for comment. Of course they did. Now the police department there in Bethel has 6 officers, 5 cops and Chief Essert, in a village of about 2,600 residents. Now, in a brief phone interview, you're going to love this statement. On March 20 of this year, Bethel's village administrator Travis Dotson said Essert was by far the most professional applicant for the job. Where are you guys going to interview these people? Cook County Correctional Center? What? Which I know isn't in Ohio, but that's the biggest prison place I could think of in the Midwest. But were they going to a prison hey, you want to be police chief when you get out? What? The most professional, by far, the most professional applicant. Dotson said he couldn't remember how village officials conducted background checks of Essert, and if the village requested and reviewed the chief's personnel records from other law enforcement agencies. He's the village administrator, the guy who's doing the hiring, and he goes, I don't know if they reviewed his personnel records. I'm going to interview him, and if he speaks well, I'll hire him. What? So they said there was a list of 26 questions that each applicant had to answer. Like one of the questions is, one thing that the new chief will need to bring to the department is a renewed sense of motivation, teamwork, positive energy. How would you go about that task? I wish I knew his answer. Dotson told the I-team that Essert was on the same page as village officials on the priorities for the police department. Really? Did you look at his past? They do give you a list of the 26 questions here. They were able to FOIA that. I'm not going to go through them, but you can if you click the link below in that story. They're right here, all the questions that they asked. So they show you different police departments here that this guy worked for. I'll kind of give you a snippet of each one, and you can read it in more detail in the link. But North College Hill Police Department, nearly 20 years ago, as a rookie police officer on probation with the North College Hill Police Department, Essert's on-duty conduct raised concern among other officers, his supervisor, and a police sergeant about his integrity, embellishment of facts, and outright untruthfulness, according to an internal police report identified as supervisor's notes. And then they say he claimed he saw a suspect run out of a store, even though surveillance video proved the man never went into the store. Stuff like that. Well, that's a red flag right there, if he lied on a police report. There's also the Village of Lincoln Heights Police Department, where 10 months, less than a year after he was fired by North College Hill, Essert applied for a full-time police job with the Village of Lincoln Heights, according to his job application. He claimed he left North College Hill because of conflict with assignment, and they bought it. This is one of those nomad cops that we talk about that goes from department to department to department to department, just floating around, causing problems. The Village of Mainville Police Department has no record that Essert worked there, even though his peace officer history shows he was a part-time officer there from November 2008 to October 2009. And according to village solicitor Julie Byrne, she said notably the village's record retention schedule permits personnel files to be purged 2 years after municipal employment ends. So they have no record that he ever worked there, even though he said he did. I mean, he probably did. She just said that they purged their records. Village of Elmwood Police Department. He worked there and was placed on unpaid administrative leave for 3 weeks for sexually harassing a female officer, according to his personnel records. In her complaint, redacted by the I-Team to protect, of course, the victim's identity, the victim wrote that Essert walked up to her door while she was sitting in her police car. According to the complaint, she said he stuck his arm in the car I was in, then scratched under my chin and said, "My nuts itch." In any other capacity that may be amusing, but no, that's not funny. The officer wrote that after that incident, Essert grabbed my right butt cheek really hard to the point that it hurt. And they're hiring this guy for police chief. That one's really long there. We talk about that police station. Brown County Sheriff's Office and Essert's peace officer issues. Now, according to personnel records, September 24, 2012, he was sworn in as a special deputy with the Brown County Sheriff's Office. 2 weeks later, they received a letter from the Ohio Peace Officer Training Academy notifying them that the Ohio Peace Officer Training Academy wasn't accepting Essert's hiring as a special deputy because the agency didn't have proper paperwork for him, and there appeared to be a 2-year break in his service as a peace officer. So he has to go back and, Court records show that in April 2020, while he was Fayetteville's police chief, Essert was charged with domestic violence. Oh my God. According to the criminal complaint, Essert and the alleged victim got into an argument over property. According to the complaint, defendant turned his steering wheel into the victim's path while driving away, causing his truck to strike her. She sustained scrapes to both her arms and her right leg. Initially, the victim didn't want to file charges and claimed she had overreacted. Now, on October 27th of 2020, he pled guilty to disorderly conduct, according to court records. So he pled guilty. Obviously, something happened there that was, he wasn't, sketchy. And now he's with the Village of Bethel Police Department. And it goes down and down like into the rabbit hole. I mean, you got to go read it. I tried to make this as short as I could. There's just no way. It's just this guy's got a history. And I tried to give you as much as I could without being boring and just reading the whole thing. But, as I say, the bottom line here is this cop has gone from department to department to department with complaints by victims, troubling behavior that concerns his supervisors and a sergeant and the sheriff's office. And Bethel, Ohio says, we'll take him. I mean, he's by far the most professional applicant we've met yet. Who the hell are you interviewing? I just wanted to bring it to your attention because anybody from Bethel, Ohio, or anybody from that area, your police chief, I don't know. They say crap trickles down. You're going to have 5 police officers that go, it's okay to be a dick. Our police chief's one.